Plural Noun Proposition papers. Today we're looking at biblical passages because that's an area of plural noun proposition papers that we're going to assign over and over and over again. It's actually what a pastor does week in and week out is he goes to the Bible and he does exegesis, he does expository preaching on the Bible. Unfortunately, when we make mistakes like going to the Bible, trying to put our own personal beliefs into the scriptures, that's called eisegesis. That's not good biblical interpretation. And so what we want to do as good Bereans is we just want to take what God is clearly saying, pull it out, and maybe put it in a 4 bullet points kind of condensed version so that we can memorize it and know how we shall then live. One of the other things is the Bible is written in the Hebrew and the Greek and a little bit in the Aramaic, but the structure, the grammar of these ancient languages wasn't exactly like how we're used to. So they have a lot of run-on sentences. There's a lot of nuances that, well, in looking at the tips from the English language, tips like subject, noun, verb, we can become good expositors of the Bible. And so the plural noun proposition process really gives us a good structure so that we're not performing, eisegesis, we're not performing heresy, we're not, reading into the Bible what God isn't intending. What we want to do is go to the scriptures to find the author, that's God's intent, the author's intent, and pull that out. So in the process of the plural noun proposition paper, I use this example in 1 Peter 4, 7 through 9. And again, what we're really trying to understand is, what is this passage saying? What does the author, what does God want us to understand about this passage? There's a lot going on here. And so if there's some rules of grammar, if there's some, not tricks, but just processes we can use to pull out the outline, well, that's what the plural noun proposition structure will do for us. And so we see this passage, the end of all things is near. So is this passage is about end times? Therefore, so if the end is near, therefore, what's it there for? Well, we're about to find out. Here comes a big exhortation. So listen up, get ready. Be, that's an action verb, be of sound judgment and sober spirit for the purpose of prayer. Above all, keep fervent in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another. So that's our passage. So what's this passage about? If we were to say a bullet point form, if we were to say in a plural noun proposition paper, well, what is 1 Peter 4, 7? What is it telling us to do? What's the exhortation? What's the action that's being asked of us? So we want to take our plural noun proposition process, our 5 steps. We want to determine the proposition. We're going to get into that. How do we determine the proposition? Well, we're going to take it from the Bible, what the Bible gives us. We're not going to add to it. We're just going to take what the Bible gives us. We're going to compose an outline, then a clear structure outline. We're going to prepare the body. We'll add the supporting evidence to it. We'll write an introduction and then formulate the conclusion of the paper. So, first step, we usually start with our 3 points. Now remember, there's not always 3 points. Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 4, sometimes there's 5. And so we have to be flexible here. In this passage, after we pull the passage apart, I'm going to come up with 4 key points. After I get those 4 key points, and I'm going to come up with 4 key statements. Again, we're going to work through that right now. Quick tip. When we are pulling from the Bible passage, we want to start with the basics of grammar, which are subject, noun, verb. We're trying to pull out the subject. What's the subject? What's the person, place, or thing of this sentence, right? What's the noun? What's the verb? What is the action? Okay, the noun of the sentence, which is the person, place, or thing, or the thing is performing then actions or an action. A lot of times in the Bible, you're going to be called on, you're going to be asked to act in a certain way. You're going to be called to act in 4 certain ways, right? So verbs express action. They're often the most significant element in the expression of the thought of the passage. The subject might be the main point of the sentence, and the verb is the key action. Everything else supports, adds to those 2 elements. Okay, so how does that work? Well, think about it this way. Tommy threw the red ball over the fence. What's the subject? Subject's Tommy, the noun is ball, the verb is threw. What supports the sentence? Well, the red supports the ball, right? It's an adjective. Over the fence supports the action that's taking place. The ball was thrown over the fence, right? Over the fence. Okay, so what is the point of this sentence? It's Tommy throwing, right? That verb tells us what the point is. It's the throw. It's what does he throw? He throws the ball. And so the rookie mistake then is to make the main point of the sentence something like red, the adjective, the exploding ball. Well, exploding, oh, that got my attention. So the explosion had to be the main point. No, it's still Tommy throwing. The fence, the wall, the bridge, over the ocean. It's like, whoa, it's so far. Well, that's still just supporting the throw. Okay, Tommy is the subject. Throwing the ball is the main point. Now, the propositional phrase may have a direct relationship and support and gives us more details, right? That's why we have our outline, main outline with subject and verb, and then the supporting points or the supporting elements to it. So it really unfolds as we take a look at the passage again. The end of all things is near. Okay, that's probably kind of our main theme or our main point or our subject. It's like the subject is the end is near. Okay, because the end is near, right? Because the end is near. Be on alert. The end is near. So I start brainstorming that. I start writing those things down. What are the ramifications of the end is near, the return of Christ, the beginning of heaven and Armageddon? Okay, what does this mean? The end of all things is near. It's like you wake up, be on alert. All right, so you got my attention now. Now, what are they warning me about? Well, what's this passage about? Therefore, great indicator, be, verb, telling you, exhortation, you need to be of sound judgment. We can restate the verb, you need to be sober spirit for the purpose of prayer. Prayer supports the sound judgment. Prayer supports the sober in spirit, right? Above all, okay, we've got more. We've got a couple more points. Be fervent in your love for one another. It says keep here, but now I'm starting to write some notes down and I'm thinking, I see this be of sound judgment, implying here then be sober in spirit. That verb translates to that. And then now I see keep or be fervent in your love for one another because, okay, here's some support. Love covers a multitude of sins. Now, love covering a multitude of sins is not the subject of this passage. It's a support. It gives us great insight, but it's not the point. Again, verse 9, we're back on the track. Be hospitable to one another without complaint. So we're starting to get an idea of, okay, here's some structure to the outline of my proposition. It looks like there's kind of 4 calls of action to be something. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead here a little bit. 1 Peter 4, 7 through 11, what I came up with was be sober, be sacrificial, be sincere, be selfless. Okay, now, I used alliteration. I noticed very quickly there's a couple S's, so I started kind of thinking ahead. I saw something like fervent. Fervent means passionate. Fervent can also mean sincere. So I thought that was an easy transition. Okay, we're going to use sincere instead of fervent. And then the idea of, well, what kind of love are we talking about? Well, we're talking about a sacrificial love. So I, instead of just saying love, I said sacrificial. So now I came up with 4 S's. Not that I just came up with them out of nowhere. I went to this passage and I mined for it, right? I peeled back the onion and said, okay, this is also what this word means. I can break out my thesaurus. I can look to the Hebrew, the Greek, in this case the Greek, and see what does this really mean, and it'll take on a different word, but means the same thing. Then I also, looking at the bigger picture of the passage, which was like, look, this is kind of a warning, right? So there's a command here. Look, this is serious. The end is near. Okay, so there's no time to wait. You must be the, we want to use in a plural noun proposition paper, we want to call to action, and using the pronoun you really, personalizes it. So we've got you must be, well, be what? Again, we took from our outline, be sober, be sacrificial, be sincere, and then be selfless. Now we looked at the supporting, prepositions, some of the supporting adjectives, and then we can add on, okay, be sober in prayer. That was the call, to be in prayer. How in prayer? Be sober. Be sacrificial in love. The love is sacrificial. That's the type of love that it is. We see be sincere in the way you use your hospitality. Be sincere. And then the idea of the one another's, the idea of thinking of others, is the idea of being selfless. And so the call here is to be selfless in service. So the first way you must respond to the end of all things is you must, right? You must be sober in prayer. You must be sacrificial in love. You must be sincere in hospitality. You must be selfless in spirit. You go back and add the first way, the second way, third way, the fourth way, and so on. And so that's how you pull out of a biblical passage, maybe 3 or 4 key exhortations, key elements, and then you turn around and write them down in a plural noun proposition paper, so that now I have something nice and clean to review, and I don't have to, pull apart the sentence any longer. You've given me 4 reasons, because it's the end of times is near, to do 4 different actions through the plural noun proposition paper format.